use this movement, which is a concept of diaspora and people, to free ourselves, liberate ourselves, both physically and spiritually, from by even using the same tool, the Bible, to come to the understanding that all of these things we see in the Bible wasn't written by us, black people, or else it couldn't be used on the good slave ship Jesus. Most of these slave ships had European names. Even the Bible itself have European names. Where is the African names within that?
You see?
So it's time we move off of them levels there and create a movement whereby our divine majesty is seen through the eyes of Ethiopia. As well, Mr. Garvey said. We have to see from an African point of view.
I think that's where they went wrong, Rasunas. They went wrong because when they keep going to that quote, when His Majesty said, he really is the word I can't just slip in my mind, that he delved into the Bible. He find comfort in the Bible. They think they're talking about King James and this Bible. Ethiopia is over 3,000 years old. So they keep going
and
to the
Jesus on the mountain giving out command.
Which Bible is His Majesty talking about? Which scriptures is His Majesty talking about? He might be talking about the scriptures from thousands of years ago, before this Jesus story coming into play. So one have to ask the right question and listen deeper by knowing through the eyes of Ethiopia that Ethiopia been on a long journey for self-development. Give thanks. And also, we forget that if we gotta imitate His Imperial Majesty, he was the king, he was the head of government. He was one who gave his people a constitution, and by way us a constitution, the first absolute monarch to do that, to be able to step off the throne and give the people forever a constitution for self-government, to be bigger and better than we have ever been before, to build for ourselves, to be free men. These are read that section too. And also understand who we're talking about. If we forget that, if we gotta imitate His Imperial Majesty, he was the king, he was the head of government. He was one who gave his people a constitution, and by way us a constitution, the first absolute monarch to do that, to be able to step off the throne and give the people forever a constitution for self-government, to be bigger and better than we have ever been before. Also, understand who we're talking about. Get that.
It's going to take a time still, I know it's going to take a time, but these conversations are good, so one can enlighten. I'm not expecting Brother Nigel to change his mind right away, but maybe him can look into what I and I saying tonight, you know what I mean, and go and do research on that, not to convince yourself, but to realize where, these concepts of God, man, and a lot of concepts, circumcision, astrology, all them things there, is ours. And all those things encompass our belief as black people, Ethiopic people, Africans today. We have to start seeing His Majesty from that perspective and know that God's our divinity is not limited to just man or woman, but nature itself, in Kemet, the Nile itself is seen as twin gods, the gods of the upper Nile and the gods of the lower Nile. And you can see them significance in it if you do the research. Because one of a petal and one of a next plant will grow in the upper Nile and the lower Nile. But both of them look alike. And the significance about them is what the word is, morphodite or something, because the gods also, even though they have man features or male features. They've also had breasts. But that's a significant to show you that when the Nile come down, right, the Egyptian, the Kemetic, use it for sustenance. That's the time when them plant. By worshiping the deity Ra. We know how to make time and seasons when, you know, we're going to do things, the days, the hours. So it's not just to say divinity as just a person or as what the Bible would have project, a man there somewhere in heaven who know everything what we do, who have a son who, you know, he make sacrifice in life for us. We can, if that's what we want, we can see it in the Kemetic. So, you know, so that's all I say. This 21st century, the movement gone beyond just seeing His Majesty through the Bible. So, you know, I know that that's a future it, whether we like it or not, and you know, we are going to determine our own destiny as the Rastafari movement. And to do that, we have to deal with practicality. Reparations and repatriation not going to come through reading the Bible or beating some drums. Yes, that have its place, you know. I don't say it don't have its place. But even the Sankey songs, them that sing, that the Nyabingi used to sing most of, those Sankey songs is from some white people. Right. We have to start create our own Nyabingi sounds if we don't want to develop that spirituality of the movement. So, you know, I just want to make them comment there, give time.
May I just add a quick? His Imperial Majesty was the head of government. It will, if we are following the footprint of His Imperial Majesty, then we too have to work and aspire to become head of government. That we must create education. In Jamaica, where I'm from, His Imperial Majesty gave a school to the people and the Black people in Jamaica. And it's one of the worst schools because we don't see it. We don't appreciate it. We don't give it the divinity that this is given. We're given something to use as a tool to liberate ourselves. We were instructed that we can't even go to Africa to do that migration thing that everybody keep talking about until we're able to liberate ourselves in our jurisdiction, in the area that we preside. We're in some little small island, and we can't take that and build on that to liberate our people there. We want to go to the continent and just be absorbed into it when they're still trying to free themselves from colonization, when 15 countries still owned by the French by way of their action and their and if they don't do it, the president of Haiti just got assassinated by some powers because it's not organized. We see this going on because we have yet to organize ourselves. We have to take political power. Howard was a political person. He responded to the liberation from a political perspective. We got to get off of this distraction that we got to keep going on to. Give thanks.
All right. So what I mean, you know, is that we have to. I want to find out from the brothers on the panel what, in their opinion, is the actual aims and objectives of the Rastafari movement, or what it should be if what it should be is not equated with what it is right now. So, Brother Nigel, you want to speak to that? You're muted. You're muted right now, currently.
Yeah, I can agree that Rastafari isn't developing and hasn't developed. Definitely, we want it, would like to see it even more developed beyond where it is right now. But in terms of the goals and aims of Rastafari, this has always remained consistent and from the beginning. We are reading, we are interpreting Africa and the Bible through an Ethiopian Afrocentric perspective, and that is empowering within itself. But in terms of goals, we repatriation, reparation. Now, I mentioned that from before. That the elders, especially the founders of the orders of Rastafari that we have now, these guys were ahead of the game, pushing
You
repatriation,
and this guy is busy.
and
So,
they were pushing that. And nowadays, you realize that these ideas are being taken up seriously, even outside of Rastafari, right? So Rastafari is having an impact, not just on its own um, movement, but also outside of Rastafari itself. Now, when you're talking about repatriation, Rastafari is not stagnant by drumming or dealing with the Bible. That is part of our culture. Drumming and chanting and things. That is our culture. Even if we go to Africa, that is just part of who we are. See? People who are Catholics or Muslim or whatever, they go to different countries same way and they maintain the tradition. You don't have to look at, you don't look at it as, oh, these things are holding us back. This is just part of our culture and how we have developed. Okay, so those aims, development, and that whereby we can even have things like schools, homes for the elderly, can develop farms and things to feed our people and so forth. So some of these things are already going on because we have Rasta who are involved with these kinds of projects. And I know of some who migrate or as Raciona say or repatriate who are involved with this kind of sort of thing. The Bible is not holding them back. This is what they're into. Um, Pan-Africanism, Pan-African ideals, this is just part of Rastafari identity. See, and what it is we are still into. Now, let me just mention certain things. Certain things with people, they are individual. Because I myself have started, as I tell you, I started my own organization. And also I have attempted to start um organization where I'm rallying some races and trying to come up with an empowerment initiative where we can start pooling resources together and we can become an economic power force. What happens with these kinds of things is you have people who are not committed and they don't understand the real mechanics of what it takes to build an organization. You have to be committed when you give people time that you have to show up for a meeting so we can get things together. They have to show up. You can't just, what a lot of people do, they are talkers. They will talk it to storm, talk about storm. When it comes to activity, they don't want, they're not serious about it. A lot of us that say that we're dealing with Rastafari and thing, a lot of man coming into Rastafari because it look cool. It's a cool thing to have the smoking the herb and the locks and the reggae music and the levity and so forth, and it look cool. But when it comes to meeting certain serious aims, some ones are not serious about it because they come in with different goals. But I'm talking, where you can find committed Rastafari who understand the movement and who really believe in it. Those are the ones that need to come together and start dealing with things. And going according to the aims and objectives of Rastafari from its very beginning, and also in tune with His Majesty and thing. Now, in terms of the Bible, as I said before, the Bible itself is not going to hold back nobody. That It's how you deal with the Bible. How you interpreting it. See? So if you interpreting that you waiting on a white Jesus, or you looking at it from a white man perspective, yeah, of course, your mind gonna be enslaved. You're not gonna want to talk black liberation, black, repatriation and redemption and all them things there, because that's what we find in average Christian circles. I can't hold conversation like that with them.
Ras Nigel, one thing you're bringing up here now, and before we even had the conversation, it was on my mind to ask about it. So in terms of, I know you probably know the word eschatology, right? You're familiar with that phrase, eschatology?
I heard it before. I don't know.
All right, well, basically is a word what means the end times. Like, what is the concept or perception of the end of creation or the world or whatever it is, right? So I want to ask you basically, and I would refer the question to Kafra. If at all you have an eschatology or expecting a messianic identity to come and redeem or salvation, some type of end time judgment scenario and all of this. If you're awaiting such event in real life, or if these were, as we read it in the Bible, is to be interpreted in allegory also.
Well, the way I cite it, as long as we are here in this life, we're obligated to do some positive and works and conduct ourselves fully and morally and do the best to our ability. Right? Not to sit around and lay wait at end time, not to sit around and lay wait another messenger. The king come already. We have information. We saw what he was doing. We can emulate his examples. Now, if Jah come again and decide that he want to destroy everything, let him catch us doing some good works and some upful works and things. But let's not wait along, for that destruction or whatever. Let's focus on those living the most moral life we can, and also getting certain works done which are in tune with our values and systems and things. Jah come, then let him catch us, doing things that are positive. If that's what's going on, then we can't, him can't come catch us and say, well, but these men are performing evil. You understand?
Yeah.
Let him come say, all right, well, the man do good work. So, but let's not think on such things about end times. Right now we have work to do, and the time is before us. His Majesty come and set an example. We know things that we can do and what we need to do. We need to organize and centralize full resource and have an effect. And that's what's affecting Rastafari now, and a lot of us, we don't have resources, and a lot of us, we really out there toughing it out and struggling and things. Let's face it, we are not a wealthy community. We are struggling. So we have to figure out now how to come together to pool some resource and start moving this dynamic forward to get to another level. Things are happening, and good things are happening. We can still do more things same there, and when we can pull together, like build some economic cooperatives, then because me living in America and thing, and as an African and thing, I've been here 35 years, and I see people from all, say, Asia, India, you have the Chinese and them people, they come in the country and they're prospering. You see them people, they own supermarket, they own gas stations, they own a lot of businesses, and you say, well, then how come these people coming off the plane and get all these resources to build these things? They're not going to banks to get these things. What they're doing is that they're working together within their circles to pool resources and to have an economic impact that benefit them. This is where we need to go as African people, and also as Rasta people. If we want to build the sort of thing that we need in Rasta. We need to build retirement homes for the elderly. I elderly don't have that. You know, we need to build schools. You know, we need to build even shopping areas then that is catering to our kind of needs, natural and organic and so forth. So we have a lot of things that we could do, but we need more empowerment, more unity, and so forth and so on. And we need to get to that level. Great, as I tell you, good things are going on with the ones and ones. In economic cooperatives and when they repatriate and whatever, having farms and whatever, you have a school in Ethiopia that Rastafari running and thing. We see ones, repatriating and thing that good still, look, organizations cropping up in terms of Rastafari and Rastafari interest. Good things are happening. We can still move it to another level same way.
All right, give thanks for your response. Rastafari, you want to say anything to that question? You could unmute, please. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I was supposed to answer like 2 or 3 other questions previously. I didn't get a chance to. I remember the one concerning, the aims and objectives of Rastafari. Well, I and I as a people were forcefully taken away from from I and I homeland against I and I will. So I think the first objective would be to return. I and I was robbed and stripped of I and I culture. So I think the other objective would be to recapture I and I culture, and also I and I social institutions, social systems were destroyed. So I would think that and I aim and objective would be to rebuild those social systems, Rastafari family, Rastafari economic systems, Rastafari political systems, and so on and so forth, because we are a nation of people, and as a nation of people, those are the things that make up nationhood. I mean, 100 years after, and Rastafari doesn't have any kind of rites of passage and these kinds of things. After 100 years, that says a lot. We have no rites of passage to transition a youth into adulthood, and we still fumbling around with the whole issue of transition into the ancestral realm. What about family? We don't have any rites of passage for marriage and all these different things. So these are the things that are important. And if we're going to rebuild these things, again, that is why the indigenous African philosophical perspective is so important, because that is the foundation that informs these different things. We don't want to go rebuilding economic institutions and political institutions along Eurocentric lines. We know Babylon right now has a paradigm of development that is destructive to the environment. That is coming from their biblical Eurocentric kind of perspective. They have no respect for the earth. But then if we're gonna approach things from an Afrocentric perspective, that is central. That's why I spoke to my perspective of spirituality as being essentially about relationship, and the Bible doesn't deal with that. Spirituality looks at not only our relationship among each other on a social level, but it also looks at our relationship along the lines of people and their environment. That is central. And also it looks at our relationship to the ancestral realm. We have certain obligations and responsibilities in order to balance, and to harmonize our relationship with each other and with the environment and with the ancestors. That is essentially what spirituality is all about. It's a science, you know. So because when we're going to look at what they're calling science is when they focus on our relationship to nature, you know, natural science that would include chemistry and physics and all these different things, right? So that is essentially, I think, what Rastafari needs to be focused on in terms of its aims, objectives, and goals, and so on. And then you asked about this last question, something to do with eschatology. Um, you know, the end goal, as was stated in Stolen Legacy, the summum bonum, you know, is to become one with the divine. You know, that is the highest good, you know, the purpose of our existence, you know. So that is the end. And what some might be calling an end, to others it's a beginning, you know. Because if we're talking about the end of an age, the end of a civilization, that's just the beginning of another, right? Because from an Afrocentric perspective, time is cyclical, it's not linear like Eurocentric. You know, they're gonna come from whenever we in the year 2000 and somebody, but we don't see it that way, you know.
So Rastafra, inside of your paradigm, then you're not looking for any kind of end times type of scenario.
Well, the history informs I know that these things happen. You know, it's cyclical, and at the end of every cycle, you know, there's destruction and there's construction. You know, so and that's what's going on basically with Rastafari. His Majesty ushered in a new age. You know, and that's what is happening now. You know, Rastafari is building, supposed to be building um, the new liberty for the new age, you know, whilst the old way of life and the old construct and so is falling and is being destroyed, you know. Yeah, so yeah, I would answer yes to your question. You know, that is what we're dealing with, you know. This the journey of Ra, you know, fighting against a pep, you know, moving towards the resurrection and rebirth. It's a cycle of birth and rebirth, you know. Yeah, life eternal, you know.
One thing came up when you were speaking. You mentioned certain social institutions like marriage and maybe even christening, and most blaringly obvious then is that Rastafari don't have funerary rites. And as far as my understanding, my overstanding is that this is coming out of the biblical precept of Numbers chapter 6 and the Nazarite vow, right? So
and also Christ, he said, let the dead bury the dead.
And Christ said, let the dead bury the dead. So I Ras Nigel, in terms of something such as that, in terms of the concept of disregarding dead persons because of a scriptical basis, then is this, what do you have to say to that, Ras Nigel?
Well, I was doing some research on Rastafari and for the longest that certain races within the movement they never believed in death, and they never brought themselves to believe in death.
As far as I understand it, Nigel, that is also from a biblical quote where they say the wages of sin is death, but the gift of the Lord is everlasting life. That
yeah,
is,
but you see that depends on how you interpret that from the Bible. Because when I look on that, I got, it depends on how you interpret death. That is spiritual death. So when Christ is saying, "Let the dead bury the dead. He's talking those who are spiritually dead, right? And this is what I was talking about when we're talking about the Adam and Eve story. When God said, well, choose the tree of life and you will live, but if you choose this other tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will die. And the devil said, well then choose the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you can live and be like a God yourself. Now, what's really happening there is different concepts of death, because what God is talking about is spiritual death. What the devil is talking about in terms of you can live, you can have life within the physical realm. So it depends on how you define death. But we know at a physical level, we all have a time on earth and we will all move on and things. So, you
But
know,
I understand what you're saying, but with respect to how in Rastafari tradition, in the different houses or on a whole, we have always had this tradition of not catering any funerary kind of things like.
Yeah. No, well, as I was saying, certain part of our liberty, we and thing like Raskapa said, we need to improve upon that. Rites of passage, or to deal with the transition of I and I. Where we have our own priests and thing and dealing with these things. Because oftentimes what we even find happens that when one of I and I drop out, you find so them end up get buried by the church or something like that, by the church that we burn in fire on, right? So that no right within that no cool within itself. Those are things, these are aspects of Rastafari that we can look up at and say we can develop. When talking about funeral rites, yeah, we can look to African tradition and say, well, but I mean, then again, which ones, because there are different African traditions all over.
I wanted to add to that in any culture or among any people, there's also a rites of passage to enter. Like you think Christianity, baptism is the way you enter,
Right.
But Rastafari doesn't have that. So we find ourselves in a situation now where anyone is just putting on lax,
right,
and calling themselves Rastafari. You have now within the countries now the homosexuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Majority of them are now putting locks on the head, right?
yeah.
So those are some of the things that are going on, and if we don't really step up another notch, we're gonna find ourselves in a situation, where people are misdirecting ones within the liberty, because I know we recently had this whole thing too, with what's the brother's name, the musician,
Yeah, Phantom Moja.
Panta Mojo, right? Yeah, he says, he's Rastafari, he's a member of the Boba Shanti and all these things. And then, he's portraying a certain way that ones would consider not in harmony with the ethics of Rastafari liberty, but no one said anything. I haven't heard
No, that's
anything
not
from
true.
you. The
No
man,
man,
That's
Ras
not true.
Nigel was very vocal about
No, that's,
Ras
yeah, it's
Nigel
yeah,
was very
individually,
vocal
individually,
about
but
the
the
brother and he
institutions,
dress code, and
the
his behavior.
institution, no institution stepped up and said, well, this brother here is violating the code of conduct of whoever mansion he belongs to, and
not
um
Bobo Shan. Well, he
something
belongs to
or
Shanti order.
excommunication
No,
or
matter of fact, I have a Bobo Shanti priest that I'm supposed to be interviewing with on July 25th, just on the same issue. Because while this thing is going on with this man from the first video that been coming out, and I'm on shock, and I talk to this Ras and I say, well, you are part of that order, ones and ones. You got somebody have to reach out to this man because this man is misrepresenting what Rastafari is. But what he told me was that the virgin is actually avoiding calls from Rasta and people because he know what's going to be said to him. So basically he's on his own tried just misrepresenting and digging deep into the the filth that he's dealing with. You understand? But still, you know, I try to contact, you know, ones who I know who might be able to get to him within that order to say him need to stop this kind of thing. A man need to speak to him. I don't know him directly. I can't get to him directly, but you know, I tell the Virgin when the Virgin asks him to come on the call, you know, and cause I've been on his radio program, it's a Bobo Shanti Ras. I've been on his radio program a couple of times, and I said, well, can you get this man on the program? Cause you see if we can reach out to him, cause we need to talk to him. This is not the way that I and I need to project ourselves. So no, it's not like we sit down and sit back and never really try a thing. So and I used to still it disturbing some other ones too, and that they are trying to address it, but you know, but the brother that this Fantan Moja does seem like him don't want to listen to anyone within the Rastafari collective. You know, him don't want to come, you know, come within I reigns to and within I realms where we could address him and his folly. You know, that him really going towards the ballad world and the Babylon world just because him, you know, for entertainment or because he want to make him money, but he don't want to hear the voice of truth coming to his direction.
Right. So that's failure. That's failure, beloved. And nor should we have to interfere with somebody on their journey, because they have to have the right to choose from right from wrong. Just on the issue of this process of handling dead people, His Majesty's lost his children. We have to, if we follow His Majesty, we really have to follow. He lost Empress Menen passed before His Majesty. All of these situations, people should see how the one we follow, the light that we are following, has. Give thanks.
So we're not hearing him.
Who was speaking this now? Ras Lawrence?
Yeah, but his mic is off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, my mic was off to all that backside.
Yeah.
No, I was saying that His Imperial Majesty is an example for us. He lost Empress Menen, and she was the process of how her departure was taken care of under his lifetime. We can imitate that. He lost his children. We can imitate his response and his practice. We have an example. So we don't have to go back. Because again, as Rasuna says, the biblical notion that has nothing to do with us, actually have a lot to do with us, but has been diverted and covertly rewritten. I mean, you know there's a Bible called a slave Bible? While that we were in captivity, that they provide for us, and that we were only allowed to read or imitate.
Confederacy.
We're just waking up. You know, we're just waking up. So we have chosen His Imperial Majesty as the light that we want to follow in this time. So let's just follow. He has his own Empress pass, and he took care of it. So too we should take care of our people who have passed. Give thanks.
No, Ras Lawrence, what you're speaking to here, it really boiling down to a word what is used and thing, and people feel is a complicated word, but easy. In epistemology, the theory of knowledge and the theory of what is correct and incorrect knowledge, right? So up inside of Rastafari now, like what you now say there is that we should look towards the example of His Majesty as the prototype or the blueprint by which we're supposed to form our worldviews and whatnot. But then ones would bring up that His Majesty may used to have eaten meat. His Majesty likes to cut his hair. His Majesty, as you might say, might have fraternized with the Queen of England and the Pope and certain persons or Rastafari might find undesirable. So what I hear in here now is that as a Rastafari movement, we in a way have to kind of define what is the epistemological hierarchy then of our worldview. I don't know if one's following along with what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, beloved. Yes, beloved. We are following. I think I'm definitely following what the eye is saying. Look, His Imperial Majesty is what we say. We say we are following. We don't have to do everything. His Imperial Majesty ate meat. We are an evolutionary development from that light. We are the future. We are the seed that has been growing. We are following our own sunlight in our own time. His Majesty saw and gave a response to the time that he was. He was a governmental leader, so he has to interact with the world. He was surrounded on all sides. If Ethiopia had lost the war against Mussolini, we will still be not in chains, but we'll be in servitude still. So that battle that was won, as His Majesty at the end of that, we are now free men. That's one of the founding message within the African Union. You know, or that statement, we have to go back and read. That's game begin now equal to now have this kind of conversation. But we use His Majesty as a tool for our collective development so that we don't fall astray. And we're gonna come up, we're gonna build new way. We need to go to space. We need to go, we need to do all aspects of our life that's gonna inform us for our collective development to save us from annihilation.
Yeah. Just in terms of my input on that, yeah, when we say we follow His Majesty and thing, remember His Majesty make pronouncements also. So we are excited if His Majesty don't say nothing against a certain thing and we dealing with it, that means we cannot then say oh, His Majesty was against that. You understand? So if we as Rastas decide we're dealing with the ITAL which is diet, which is a herbivore diet and a plant-based diet, we cannot argue that His Majesty came out against that, right? If we are wearing our ear as locks in the form of locks, we cannot come forward and say His Majesty came out against that. In fact, he came out for that because as I said, really the story of Bongo Watu, where Bongo Watu His Majesty on his visit to Jamaica, through an emissary asked Bongo Watu why I'm wearing locks, why I have the dreadlocks, and him quote the Bible number 6 and several other places. And His Majesty said, leave Rasta alone, they know what they are doing. So it's not like, so therefore we know He's not against locks. He never come out and say man should wear locks, but we know he approves of us being who we are treading that way in terms of Rastafari. In terms of his fraternizing with the Queen and so forth, we have to remember that His Majesty was a diplomat. When he had to liberate Ethiopia from Mussolini, he needed the help of powerful European countries, that had the weaponry and stuff. He needed, and that's where he got the support from England to do that kind of a work. This is called diplomacy, and he's acting diplomatically. Now, with us as Black people, in terms of interacting with the English monarchy, we are not afforded that same position. We are coming from the position of people who were abused, who for hundreds of years had our labor taken for free, who were robbed from our homeland. So we are coming from a different perspective than His Majesty dealing with the Queen or dealing with Europe. We need some justice done because of the injustice that's been done. They have built themselves, to be world powers, and yet they don't really have much in terms of material resources. And the places that have the material resources are the ones where people are dying of starvation, that are the places that are simultaneously and fairly undeveloped compared to the rest of the modern world. That's because of their doing and their colonialism, slavery, neo-colonialism. So we have to approach them from a standpoint that we need justice as due. We need reparations. We need to be our societies to be built up and our people to get their just rewards because of what has been done. So that's just my take on those points I brought up, my brother.
This one more picture. If the host become prime minister of Trinidad, or another brother become the prime minister of Jamaica, he is the leader of the entirety of the country. Whatever people have, whatever package and baggage they have, you start there. So when you're in a leadership capacity, you can't equate that with somebody else who is on their own spiritual journey or is trying to liberate themselves. When you're liberating yourself, you have to grab the closest tool to you and swing with that. And the essence of locks is a long-standing issue that's been amongst different type of people worldwide, historically, even before we decide that we are locks that are here. It is an expression of ourselves. It is a rebellious against nature. It is an antenna on our head to signal from far off who we are, where we have chosen. It also, as I said, have reflection within the Bible, the historical Bible, But when we become leaders of our respective community and putting forward a perspective of what it means to be decent, what it means to be human, and to do good in the world, because that's what the ultimate thing is, to do good as our heartbeat, work towards doing good. Then that's all it is. We are individually responsible at that point. Nothing more, nothing less. Give thanks.
All right. Well, give thanks for that input there, Rasta Lawrence. I see my brother Nana Kwame come in there, a brother from Trinidad and Tobago, a Pan-African minded one. You have something you want to ask a question to anybody on the panel or make a comment, brother?
Yeah, man. Greetings, everybody.
Listen.
I hear what's going on. Very important point. Rastafari made rites of passage. I've passed through these things in when we had the Revolutionary Black Panther Party. You had to do a rites of passage pretest, and from that pretest, you'd be asked questions, but you wouldn't be asked questions based only on the pretest. It would have involved that you research the entirety of the subjects to see how interested the person was, because we don't want people to just repeat rhetoric without meaning, right? And you see, with rites of passage now, you get to get everybody on a level of awareness. Where we stand in Rastafari is different levels of awareness in the world right now, from my observation. Because you have man from different mansion. I'm gonna put it like that, because that is what it is. You have man from different mansion of Rastafari. I was around more brothers from the Ethiopian Bobo Shanti order from since I was 14 years old. So a lot of talk was direct to me, in the sense that I didn't have to go through only Bible research. I had to research outside the Bible. I had to research in Africa, in India, to see where I was before colonization take place and cultural assimilation take place on these plantations here in the West Indies, the New World, as they so call it, the New World. And I see conflicting views will always take place once men don't understand what is the difference between European worldview and its contents. Its contents also is religion, literature, especially in this talk here about worldview. Because our worldview, look, the language I'm speaking right now is English. The language we communicating here is we colonial masters language. In Venezuela, they will talk Latin language, right? That is the language of the colonizers. In Mexico, they talk same thing, as the colonizers' language. And a little that I know in India, Hindi is the colonizers' language as well. And Hinduism is their cultural assimilated program from the Aryans. And in India, there's opposing views between Hinduism and the indigenous people who live there. In Africa, there's opposing views with the indigenous people who live there and Christianity or any form of Judaism. And I've been following the Bobo Shanti order for many years. Even the 12 tribe house have been involved. I partake in gatherings down here in Trinidad and Diego Martin in the HQ. Never been to the Ethiopian church too, but I have an idea about the creed. And the creed is based on the Nicene Creed. And there's a lot of confusion with people not even understanding the origins of what we follow. You understand? And when I come into following the roots of Rastafari now, whether it's Ethiopia or in Bobo Shanti, they will talk more about Ghana, we turn into Akan culture. Akan culture has a lot of different worldviews, with especially responsibility is concerned. In the Christian worldview, a lot of responsibility is shed on the devil. It is blamed on a devil, and humans really don't change when they do those things. You understand? And wrong is easy to take place, immorality is easy to take place in them grounds, I find. Whereas in the African worldview, they teach you about your Ori. Your Ori is in here, your head, your temple, your inner temple, your high place, your heavens. In here is a God consciousness about life, which is reality, and morality and immorality taking place. And they teach you to be responsible and don't blame any devil outside of you. And that had changed me a lot, because not only I tried Rastafari, but during my years I was in and out. I was in the rebellious side, doing things that is not right, you know, and I always wanted to strive to be on the right side. That is my struggle because of my environment I growing up in. I grew up in Gasparulo, which is a ghetto village, and a village. I see classism there. That made me to research Walter Rodney. Dr. Walter Rodney was talking about classism and neocolonialism. You understand? And especially in Guyana and Trinidad, he didn't see a reason to carry on certain ideology like what he would use in Jamaica or in America or in Europe when he's talking to the masses. Because he saw here in Trinidad, we had African and Indian unity against the oppression in these two places. And they had set a boundary between us called class struggle and tribalism. Like what they did in the Hutsis and the Tutsis, they caused tribalism. Right? But in all of me saying all of this is that what is in Bobo Shanti, I understand clear that the mission is to not only repatriate to the roots of our ancestors, of all human beings, which is the motherland, but also to repatriate the mind to regain the mental awareness of how we used to view the world, and what was our codes of morality, what was our rites of passages that had us with cultural continuity. Because what we want is cultural continuity with we children, and we nieces, and we nephews. You know what I mean? We here at different levels of awareness. Now, If a man don't know about Akan culture and he don't know about Ethiopian culture before Judeo-Christianity, he might feel like talking radical or personal views, but I'm not. I'm not here to do anything new, because in the sense that I believe we have had enough leaders for us to just continue their works, and even as students of them and of our time and our people, make necessary corrections where it is needed. You understand? Because there's usually called concept of Sankofa to, you know, highlight this. Because the concept of Sankofa from West Africa, it teaches you to look back in the past from whence they came to know where he is today, and you're using the benevolent or the wise knowledge of the past and the present to build a better future. You know what I mean? So I don't take away nothing from nobody. I look to learn from everybody. And what I've been learning is that we need our rites of passage as a standard to save we people from disgrace, and shame. Because what is going on in Africa, Trinidad, India, Jamaica, and Guyana right now is shame. We have politicians who black just like we, same non-white skin colors, but the mind is colonial, and they're practicing neo-colonialism. They're enforcing IRO, interreligious organizations. But what is the religions that is noticed and recognized there is the ones that has been oppressing our ancestral culture from the places we came from, which is Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and all these things. So man have to wise up and man have to know what's going on, because now is a serious time where we have a lot of information accessible. And they don't want to be caught in the past because of ignorant ideologies. You understand? So that was my input there for tonight, my observation. Thanks.
I give thanks, brother Kwame, Nana Kwame, Agiemi. So yeah. So I don't know if anybody want to have anything to say onto what the brother now share with us, you know. Melisek, I see you was starting to say something. Ethiopian World Federation, you finally unmuted.
Greetings all.
Greetings.
His Imperial Majesty and Empress Menen. I had turned down my volume for a while because I was on another conversation, and I thought it was all over. So I just realized that it's still going on. I was listening intently. I loved what is going on, and I really wanted to pay more attention, but I didn't imagine this was still continuing. So I just joined again.
All right. Well, one thing, Empress, I'd like you to introduce yourself so we have some form of idea who we're speaking to. You know?
Yes. This is Mr. Jem Morrison, and I consider myself the legal president of the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting because the Ethiopian World Federation, established by Malaku Bayen. Yes. So is it this same exact institution, or is this a reincorporated entity that you are speaking of now?
It's the only one that I know of since 1937. Mm-hmm. So, and it's incorporated, and it was incorporated by Malaku Bayan. Mm-hmm. I don't know that's a problem. As a matter of fact, I know that some people respond negatively to the idea of the locals being incorporated and try to say it's a different organization, but the locals have to be incorporated as a child entity under the headquarters. Because if the locals, once upon a time, everybody used to use the same EIN number, and that means if you had a local, let's say in Oregon, and you wanted to do business, you know, as you know, it is difficult in these times to do business if you don't have an identification number. So everybody was using the same number to do their banking, to use credit cards, and situations like that. So some lawyers had recommended that the locals, some years ago, be incorporated because there were people who had taken out credit cards, and you know, and it became a burden on the headquarters because it's the headquarters EIN number.
Okay, I would like to ask you, Empress Jem Morrison, where are you located? Where are you based?
Normally in New York.
New York, okay. And the Ethiopian World Federation.
I ran away from the COVID for a minute.
Right. What I'm saying is the Ethiopian World Federation as an entity, organization, what can you tell us, like, update us about the current works of the Ethiopian World Federation in 2021?
Well, the current works continue to be a fight. I think probably is a spirit that continues to follow the Ethiopian World Federation. And yes, there is a serious power struggle. And my council has decided that we need to really clean house. And there are a lot of illegalities. There have been court cases and people just presenting themselves as officers. And there's one big concern too about an organization called the Sashamani Ethiopia Federal Agents Association, of which they're probably getting very far in taking over the Ethiopian World Federation itself. The members of that group, I think, are a threat to the Federation. And they consider that they are the international body, and that the Federation that you're talking about, that I represent, is their child entity. So they are the international body, and we are, and they, you know, they have said it, that we are subject to them. So, and a lot of things. There's a group that came up on the internet that calls themselves an interim council, and they're calling their own convention. And, you know, there are some inconsistencies with that, because there are rules to who participates in a convention and what qualifies. So there are some problems, but we have determined that we are going to use, it's in the Constitution that when there are instances where the organization is being abused, that we should seek the best legal means available. So we're committed to doing that now, and we, at this point in time when our family is going through travail, we are being openly, they're not hiding the fact that they're trying to annihilate us. And that word annihilate, the first time I ever saw it was in our Constitution, where His Majesty used the word that we should protect ourselves from annihilation, because He saw this day coming, when we would be the target of all our enemies. So it's a time when we need to come together, but we need to come together in a true spirit, in a true fraternal spirit, and with people who have integrity and who care about the organization and want it to function constitutionally and lawfully.
Right, well, give thanks, Sistren. Within your conversation, what you're coming with here now, I want to pivot the conversation slightly with the brothers here now. And I want each of them to basically describe what are their current activities within the field of Rastafari or life works in terms of organizing or any form of contribution. So I want to ask Brother Nigel about his writing and if you're involved in organizations and whatnot.
As I tell you, I used to be involved in a couple of different organizations. I used to have my own organization, the Pan-African Development Enterprise, which I had operational for 7 years. At one point, I was tutoring an Asian American organization, not tutoring, advising them in terms of building schools in Haiti and so forth. At another point, I forget the name of this, Caribbean Cultural Organization. I forgot that what that was, the total name of the organization. In terms of supporting the Caribbean community in New York. And then when I came to Florida, at one point, I was actually trying to get some Rastas together so to actually build an economic collective. That didn't work. Then another point, I was trying to working with another, this was just an African bridge, up in Jacksonville to try to get a branch of the new UNIA in Jacksonvile. But, as I tell you, with a lot of our people, commitment is an issue. So at this very moment, I'm not involved in a personal involved in an organization. As I tell you, I'm focusing my energy on this book and I'm interpreting the Jamaican language and seeing if I can get that out. And it's a pretty intense work, and with I would say years away before I can even imagine it being done. But I think it is also a necessary work, that this work get done, and and try to get the Jamaican people to see themselves in a different light, to see their language in a different light, because in terms of how we were growing up and how I was brought up in Jamaica, when we were talking the language that was natural to us, first of all, it wasn't even regarded as a language. It was, it was said that we were talking bad. If we had to represent it to people outside Jamaican culture, we would say it's broken English or something like that. But I'm trying to show that, well, that it's not broken English. It's not talking about this is our African indigenous language that we, you know, that we've inherited, and it has value. We communicate by it. It's a language of communication. It's also when the more I examine the languages, the more I realize how sophisticated and how brilliant it is in a lot of ways, because when you just have even a couple of words, and even the word and just putting that word in different parts of a sentence, you get totally different meaning, right? Because if I put before, let's say, a noun to begin a sentence, then I could, you know, like we say, a John do it, then it means it's John who did it. But if I put John do it, like put that in between, you know, John and do it, then it means John is doing it. You understand? So it's just by switching that letter in the, you know, in different places, you get different meanings. Same thing with a word like fit. You know, you have it in different parts of a sentence. You know, it can mean for, it can mean to, it can mean should, and it depends. And it depends on, you know, if you combine it with you can get different meanings. Because if I say John do it, but you know John is doing it. But if I say John have to do it, then it means John has to do it, right? But if I switch around the feet and put John, you know, John fear do it, then it becomes John should be doing it. So you know, this is the sort of dynamics in the language that I'm looking at, and how it is broken down, how they use these words.
And even so, if you say after John, that means it's John one.
Right.
After
it's
John.
But you're how this language work and how funny it is. Because if you know, after John, it means it's John one. Because you can also interpret it as, you know, to get that meaning as it is for John, right? After John, right? It is, because you can use it as a leading it is for John, right? So this is the way that is sort of breaking down the language and sort of look, because the more I get into it, the more I'm looking at the permutations with these words in different parts of sentence structure, and you coming up with us these multiple meanings. You understand? And you can even have a sentence that can have several different meanings. And the more you meditate on it, you realize, yeah, you know, this sentence here, yeah, you can have this meaning, that meaning, that meaning. And you can have two English sentences, two Jamaican sentences that translate to the same English meaning, but have different meanings in the Jamaican mind. You understand? So this is the sort of thing that I'm working on. It's a pretty much, you know, complex in terms of, because it ended up being more complex and more surprising to me than anything else. Because, you know, I speak the language, but I never really think of it on that level before. Because, you know, just in America, I learned to speak American English and so forth. And I realized when I switched from the Jamaican talk to the American talk, I realized it's a different way, a whole different language system. So now I'm taking an interest into what it is, you know, how is this Jamaican language working? And the more I break it down, the more I realize,
that is great.
That
is great. Yes, brother, and I do. That's very great, brother. Because watch me, just last night, I was looking at a note I'd read like 9 years ago from Ngugi Thiong'o. You all familiar with him?
No.
Ngugi Thiong'o. All right. Well, Ngugi, let me spell it for you. Nguigi. Ngugi. Thiong'o. Thiongo. He's an African writer. And he talk about language, right? And Nigel, if you know how important what you're doing there is, in the sense that we can talk among foreigners and we could talk patois and they would not understand a word what we say. Because we talk very fast too. We talk very fast. You understand? People will be like, what? What did he say?
Right.
You understand? And that could be used to our advantages in certain situations, like when you need to use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, I want to hear. I want to give thanks for the language thing, and I really excited. I go be buying that book when you finish publish that book, Ras Nigel, most definitely, you know. And I think it will be a great literary contribution to African people. Now, Ras Kafra, we see that you're involved in organization in Guyana, the Rastafari Guyana Rastafari Council. So
Yeah.
and then I recently saw that he was doing, or they had like some herb activism over cannabis matters and different things like that. So I don't know if you want to bring us up to date on some of the works again, or Rastafari
Yeah,
Council.
Rastafari. But before I forget, I wanted to touch on two things first. I want to ask this sister from the Ethiopian World Federation concerning this rival organization that she spoke about. I wanted to know if it was headed by Rastafari members or Ethiopian members, or who are in the lead carrying out those works. That's one. Two, I wanted to tell Brother Nigel that in Guyana here we deal with the Guyanese Creole language at the university level. The sister who spearheads it is a good friend of mine. So if you'd like, I could put you in touch with her, and maybe get exchange perspectives. Because it's basically the same throughout the Caribbean, so you can touch base with her and hear, because she is at the forefront of this recognizing Creolese language as an official authentic language within the respective countries, so she has a regional perspective on the issue, right? So that is that. And finally, yes, the Ghana Rastafari Council. We know in Guyana here, we just have three different groupings of Rastafari. You have the House of Naibingi, which came around about 1997 with the international trad. That's when the house was established, the Naibingi House. You have the 12 tribe, which was established in the 1980s. And then you have the Ghana Rastafari Council, which doesn't see itself as a mansion because we don't really promote any particular doctrine. We're a registered NGO, but our genesis is in the early 80s as well. And we became officially registered in 1999. And since then, we have basically occupied the national space in terms of representing the Rastafari community's interests. In Guyana, we collaborated both House of Naibingi and 12 Tribes of Israel. We organized the first meeting of mansions in 2006. I think we did that about 2 times. And it basically established a strong relationship between the House of Naibingi and the 12 Tribes of Israel, where at times they even collaborate to come against us, But apart from the little conflicts that we have a pretty good working relationship among ourselves, and we've been collaborating ever since then, hosting big national events and so on. One of the last things that we did was in 2017 when we held a national Rastafari reparations conference. The president was invited, he spoke, and then after then we went into election mode, and there was a falling out because Rastafari Council took a stance against the government, which was an African government, and they kind of supported it. And then recently we kind of came together again, to continue our relationship. So we have that kind of relationship going on. What happened recently was that in 2015, the Rastafari Council said that we announced to the nation that we were going to make the cannabis issue a political issue, and we started a campaign to put it on the national agenda. When we did that, it went on the national agenda. All the parties at that time spoke and made public promises to do something. When the Black Party went into power, they said that it was no longer a priority for them, right? So we drew our sword against them, and it was a battle between us and them throughout their term. One of the things was that I think it was in 2017 that the president said that when Parliament opened, he was going to deal with the matter. He went to Parliament, we went out in front of Parliament with the Naibingi drums and so on. He didn't say anything, he broke his promise, and it was in the life of that same Parliament that the opposition called a no confidence motion and ended the life of his government. It was when that no confidence motion was passed, then he tried to pull a bluff and say, well, they're going to allow tortograms, but he was in no position to do anything about it then, right? So that government fell, and when the Indian government came in, the Attorney General announced to the nation that the president asked him to deal with the matter expeditiously. So they said that they were going to set up a committee, a parliamentary select committee, and start consultations. What happened was the same former government who were opposed to doing something decided to bring forward a bill asking for about 500 grams or something to that extent. The government shut down that bill and passed their own bill, right? So that bill went to the select committee, but the select committee never met to elect a chairman and start consultation with the Rastafari community. So recently when an elder was arrested and harassed for about 5 grams or something, we went out to protest that and to really say, you know what, we're going to deal with this issue once and for all. And we vowed not to come off the battlefield until they deal with the issue in a way that is acceptable to us, And I think from since then, our demands have even evolved into full-out legalization based on the position of the CARICOM Marijuana Commission, right? So that is that in terms of, the cannabis battle that we're carrying out presently. We recently, I think it was yesterday, that we had the third rally at the Square of the Revolution. We're going to have another one on the 1st of August, Emancipation Day. But right now, some of the other things that we're doing, the Ghana Rastafari Council will be collaborating with the Bingi House, and we'll be sending in some of our resource personnel, like we have some youths who are surveyors and stuff like that, to assist the Bingi House with its community development project. Is, the Bingi House Central Tabernacle sits upon roughly 1,000 acres of land, but because they lack administration and these things, they've not been able to do anything with it. So with our involvement, one of the things that we're going to do within the next couple of weeks or so, we're going to have the land surveyed, and we're going to have the same surveyors develop a development plan that will basically show, where they're going to do housing, where they're going to do agriculture, and so on and so forth, right? Because we're all going to, take up housing, lots and all these different things, right? The Rastafari Council would have its portion and all these different things. The council of itself has 500 acres, but that's in a different territory that requires little more resources to deal with it. So that's what we're dealing with. And then on a different tangent, the Rastafari Council recently signed on to a treaty establishing a Caribbean Rastafari Union among 6 Rastafari organizations from 6 different Caribbean nations. We have the Rastafari Council from Guyana. We have the Almanchans in Trinidad, Bongo, Greece. We have from Jamaica, we have the Rastafari Millennium Council. From Barbados, we have the Rastafari Progressive Movement. From Suriname, we have the Almanchans of Suriname. That's called the Rastafari Federation of Suriname. And then we have from Haiti, the Rastafari Movement of Haiti, right? I think that's what they call themselves. So those are the 6 Rastafari organizations, all NGOs, all the most prominent organizations within the countries that are now in the process of working in a union, because there is a Caribbean entity, a Caribbean Rastafari organization, but that's more Eastern Caribbean, that has excluded all the rest of us who are major countries in CARICOM. And so we kind of said, well, we were gonna form a group to pressure them to bring about certain reforms. They refused, and so we ended up doing our own thing. So we're planning to launch the union in September, and we have some areas that we're looking to think. What we want to do is launch what we call it, the 2030 plan, a 2030 plan, right? So those are some of the things in the works. Like, for example, Barbados is doing a newspaper that will become the collective newspaper for the union. We want to donate our land that we have here and make it a regional project. And different groups are doing different things and contributing different things towards the union and the collaboration. So that's where we're at presently. And, we're building it from strength to strength. So, yeah.
Give thanks. I don't know if Empress Morrison, if you're still tuned in, because Raskafra asked you a question putting into the organization that is threatening your organization, the Ethiopian World Federation, and he was asking about who are the membership and the leadership of that organization. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Okay. I would say that organization is a shadow organization. And someone out there probably was sending me information about this particular person and organization, probably on WhatsApp for some time, but I took very long to go on WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was out there and things were being downloaded on my computer that I didn't even know. And then so that is how, after some time, I saw an article from a group called the One People's Private Trust, because this person was filing UCC claims against government agencies, including like the IRS, the FBI, Congress, congressmen. It was something that was going on about some financial situation and money and so on. But the person was using the EIN number of the Ethiopian World Federation. So we only knew of one name, and it turned out that that name was a dead man's name. And the person who was representing it was a young, probably 20-something years old at the time, born in 1982. And so something, when I became president, one of the people who were elected with me, we were supposed to open a bank account, because apparently when hands are changed, people don't turn over bank accounts. So as a matter of fact, when we went to one particular bank, there probably were about 7 accounts in that one bank alone, and that's one bank, because probably everybody was using the same EIN and stuff like that. But anyway, we were supposed to meet in Manhattan to go open a bank account. And so we probably made plans like 4 or 5 or so more times, and he never showed up. And one day he said, we can open a bank account online, and sent me and another member, on the phone at home on the computer, and said, okay, type this is the password, go in there, the Ethiopian, that's the bank account. All you have to do is sign over there. And I saw a name in there. And the name was Clayton Mahola Bernard. But I really wasn't paying that much attention to the name, because I didn't know how important it was going to be. But I said, somebody's name is in there, I can't sign that. And he said, oh, don't worry, he's just using it as an example. It turned out, and I said, my spirit said no. And talking about spirit, the title of your Zoom is about, Rastafari and religion, right? The Bible. So I know spirit and religion disturbs some people these days. I live by it. I was made a bishop without even asking or trying. I still don't know what a bishop is supposed to do. But I was made a bishop. But anyway.
What do you mean, Empress? What do you mean you made a bishop, but you don't know what a bishop is supposed to do?
Something. I did not study for it. I did not ask for it. I had a queen mother in Brooklyn, in New York, who passed away. She was a bishop, and she had co-founded a church with a Philippine church, or probably a bishop too. And she loved me very dearly. At age 50, she wanted to adopt me. She loved me so much. Anyway, when she passed away in 2014, no, 13, the end of 13, we buried her in 2014. The bishop of the church, because all I used to do was take her to the church sometime, and she was an elder and she was blind too. And he called me and he said, at the next convocation, we are going to install you as a bishop. She had ordained me as a minister, and
this would be in a conventional church, or in what type of faith system?
Oh, straightly Christian, and nobody seemed to have a problem with me being Rastafarian, and I don't. So I am usually someone that says yes when called to serve. And I said yes. I said, okay. So they installed me as a bishop. So I still need to go and study. And someone said, well, for the position you have, that's a good thing to be, because you should be able to sign birth certificates and stuff like that if we were doing things the right way for this government of we, the Black peoples of the world. But anyway, just want to say that, yes, I am a Christian, I'm a Rastafarian, I don't see any conflict of interest. And I do believe we have to be guided by the Bible, even though the enemies have taken the book and tried to turn it upside down, but they are really not that bright, because right there in the first book of the Bible, second chapter, it tells us where the Garden of Eden is and other things, you know, if they really wanted to hide it from us. But then I suspect they weren't that bright. So we should just read it, and that's why you ask for the guidance of the Trinity or the Holy Spirit while you're reading. So, you know, you'll get the fullness of it without the interference of the enemy. Anyway, just to say that the Constitution of the EWF has the word God in it 5 times. And it also states that one thing says, God's purpose in creating us. And it ensures that we have a chaplain. So the Ethiopian World Federation, there are a lot of Rastafarians, and I don't think they really are Rastafarians if they're saying burn the Bible, burn Christ, you know, and I think it's leading our children astray, and even adults, because some people are just followers, you know, and they will go with anything. Like they said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So anyway, I took myself off the topic. So you had me respond to how I don't know about being a bishop, but I've always lived a life of faith, and I have a personal relationship with His Imperial Majesty, the spirit of His Imperial Majesty. So I do see him as how I see Christ, who lived among us as a man, as a person, but at the same time is God in human form, walking the earth with us. So anyway, this person now tried to get me to open an account with someone that I did not know. And this is someone on my own council. And when we found out that he had started the EWF, set up, incorporated his own EWF while he was on our council that the members did not know anything about, we suspended him. So in terms of where it's coming from, we got this article where they apparently, that says this group, but that time we did not see the name Sashamani Ethiopia Federal Agents Association. We just saw the name, which is Clayton Mahola Bernard, and he presents his name in 100 different ways. And so I cannot tell you the source of it, but what I know is that the members and the council did not know about it. And this person was a young Jamaican man who was being presented. I don't think it came from him. When he started out, he wasn't probably even 20, you know, and he's filing UCC claims on governments and FBI and Congress and all kind of stuff. So I had tried to bring this to the attention of our members, you know, for years, because this was so serious to me that, and when I spoke about it, it seemed like nobody cared. Nobody cared up to recently. A group that is coming together to say they are going to call convention because they want to, I guess, ignore the fact that I am the president. And they invite me on their call line and ask me to speak. And I tell them about this. And what it is that the main person, one of the main person who is representing this group, was brought in about a year or two ago, between 2018 and 2019, to be their president. And they have engaged this organization. And the organization went in and filed taxes under their own name as if they own the Ethiopian World Federation. So that's where we are right now. And the council is saying, you know, enough of playing. And there are many, many illegalities. And like I said, power struggle. And we believe that the Ethiopian World Federation should do better. So my council is saying, you know, fight this. Don't sit back and wait on anybody else out there because they're not responding. And I went on a meeting with them yesterday. I didn't really go on the meeting. I went to submit some forms on their platform so that they could see some of what these people are doing. And I felt like I was in a den of demons. But it's like they were just all fighting me. They were making up stories about me, saying I robbed money from the EWF and stuff like that. And yet still not one of them has ever sent 10 cents in dues to the EWF. So I don't know where they think the EWF got money from. But so this, this organization needs to be shut down. As a matter of fact, I don't even care where it goes. This article that I got says they are associated with $1 billion company, $1 billion company, and the EWF does not even have a one-room office in New York. I worked out of my own apartment, which all I can say is God gave that to me. Again, when I got that apartment in a place called Trump Village in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, that they call it Little Russia. So when they talk about did Trump know the Russians? Yes, he did. He built about 600 buildings to accommodate them in the Cold War. So, and I ended up in one of them, 1,674 families, and there was not one Black family. And they asked, you know, I didn't even know I was buying an apartment. That is how God works with me. I thought I was renting. It turns out I was buying an apartment with an ocean view and a nice ocean where people actually bathe 2.5 blocks away. So I just, things like that, I consider God working in my life. And even being president of the EWF is not something that I want. It limits my life. You know, I should be sleeping right now, right? So, personally, in a visitation with the Holy Spirit, and when I looked, I saw, when he put his arms around my shoulder, I saw the uniform, and I knew it was His Imperial Majesty. And he said, everybody is born with a purpose that is designed for them even before they were born. I didn't even know that that was in the Bible at the time. So I am very interested in the topic And that's why, even though I'm supposed to be sending out notices for the convention, I was trying my best to pay attention. So it's the matter really should be of concern to all Rastafarians, because the EWF is important to the Rastafari movement. And most of the members are Rastafarians. And why? Because it's Rastafarians who know about His Imperial Majesty, who respect His Imperial Majesty, and who wants to honor him and obey his law. And one of the things I say is that the Bible says, if you love me, keep my commandments, you know? And that is what I try to do. And I think when he wrote the Constitution, that is the commandments that he wants us to do to protect ourselves, because he saw the day coming when these Neanderthals would be trying to kill us off because they want the world for themselves. Anyway.
So give thanks, Empress. We'll resolve all them issues there with the EWF. Anybody who come up in Rastafari tribe would have heard about that organization and the lofty principles and goals, you know, of the founding father of it, you know. So, because as far as I know, the EWF was established during the Italian-Ethiopian War as a kind of organization to galvanize assistance to Ethiopia from the diaspora community and whatnot, you know. So definitely wish to, you know.
As a matter of fact, someone shared with me just last week that they believe that originally the Constitution says colored, we the colored people, because at the time, Black was not being used to describe us. So I guess when Black became the popular word, that they changed. So we need to look into it, because in terms of using the color Black, some people look at it that it is it's wrong for us to use that word, that it's a negative.
Yeah, we have heard them kind of rhetoric already coming out of different groups, the Moors and others, you know. But even it's true that even the Ethiopian people, they didn't have such a race consciousness of being Black, and so, and it's actually certain events such as the Italian invasion and whatnot that reoriented the Ethiopian worldview to a more closer kinship to the other African nations and African identity on a whole. I don't know if one's aware of that type of information, you know? Yes.
Yeah, but same time too, Steve Banto Pico, he had a paper, the Sasso paper, right, for the organization that he did with the description of Blackness also. And Blackness went beyond pigmentation of skin. You understand? It included a lot of different factors and common denominators, as so to say, because it includes a worldview and it excludes colonial mindset, colonial ideology. You understand? Amilcar Cabral, he and all talk about that too. You understand? It have many of them come on to about blackness and the problem we have with identifying what is black. Because we live in Trinidad, as you know, Ankuma, and a lot of people have been misled with our prime minister, thinking that he's a black prime minister and everything is going to be all right. But when you check the new colonial agenda, and if you check the new colonial agenda in Africa and in India, and who is the imperialist who benefits out of the problems or benefits from the new colonial systems, because neocolonialism is by definition people benefiting, not people, but an empire, an imperial empire benefiting on the most resources from that country, whether it's through IMF loans or whether it's through trade or using the currency or whatever standard they set to keep us at the bottom of the barrel, right? This is what governs life. It governs people, environment, and environment has a lot of things to play with somebody's mental capabilities and what they could focus on for development, whether it's in school they're going to, and all these different things that comes with the environment, including molestation is prevalent. It is more like the buck-breaking farms. You get to is the buck-breaking fucking farms. Sorry for using obscenities, but it is what it is. You understand? We find a breakdown in morals and everything in ghetto lifestyle. You know, part of being Rastafari is to civilize yourself from being a ghetto hooligan, as my brethren this put. Because we know where it is to be a hooligan, me and where I come from. But we made a clear distinction that is not the road we want to travel, because it are repercussions of that life. It are things like karma, where people is call it. You do wrong to people, it will come back to haunt you in some different way. We see it before our eyes, people die before us, all these things. Trodden the wicked road. Right? So blackness is deeper than just pigmentation and thing and just what our constitution says it is. I know the struggle with the constitution, what they said people is and what they is not. But we had enough lessons right now in 2021 from Asata Shukur, from Mumia, from we local people here in North National Union for Freedom Fighters, from the Rastafari movement in Jamaica, and Walter Rodney here in Guyana. He defined blackness more than anything else. He wrote a book beginning with the topic called Groundings with My Brothers. You understand? And that is important. That should be part of rewrites our passage to understand ourselves from the Caribbean and the Western world here, especially what Walter Rodney book can now mention, the Grounding with My Brothers, to understand what blackness is. It's not something we choose to be, you know. It's something the system does target us as non-white people. Especially if you're following the roots and culture and your identity before colonization is a threat to that. You know what I mean? That is all I wanted to add to the topic. Respect.
All right.
Thanks. Good time. Now, one thing the brother now say that, and it sparked up something in my mind, that I know we might still have to use the same platform or whatnot to start to collectively read the same book and discuss chapter by chapter, you know. I mean, I think that's our next exercise. What will bear some good fruits now. And I to even go back to some of these foundational documents, you know, written, like me personally, I see where we come in to talk about Rastafari, the paradigm of we're supposed to take in. You know, this one here, Rasta and Resistance, Marcus Garvey to Walter Rodney, a Virgin Horace Campbell, who write that one there. This is a old book, you know. Rastafari in Transition, Ekael Tafari, PhD. There's a brother who like move with Bongo Wato and some of them and things. You know what I mean? And there's just two little books I pull off my shelf there, but we have many books from some writers who outside of Rastafari community, and then in more modern times now we're getting books from ones who would be considered internal inside the Rastafari community and whatnot. So I think we would do yourself some benefit by starting to review some of these books and discuss some of the ideas and the notions and things that are being put forward concerning the Rastafari movement, you know. Melisek, you want to say something?
I would like to add to the reasoning. Can you hear I?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So greetings, Rastafari. Oh, I should correct that. It's pronounced. My name is pronounced Melisek. So it's Ethiopian.
Melisek.
Yeah. So
Melisek.
wow.
All right.
Just
well, we can roll with tongue in that direction too, man. So it's not no problem, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes. On the subject of blackness, which is something I like to talk about a lot, actually. The brethren Nana Kwame said, blackness is more than just the skin color, but even if we just look at the root of why I and I have color, you know, if we look at melanin and the function of it, then we can start to understand that it's also a gift, and it's not necessarily something that white people or the European gave I or assigned to Aina. So even if we look at ancient Kemet, you know, in the translation of Kemet is land of the Black peoples. And so we knew that clearly they weren't speaking English, but if we know that it translates into that, then it's also translated into other languages, blackness, you know, and Black skin or Black people. So if we know that, then we know that even then we identified with Blackness. We don't have to take on any kind of negative connotation when we speak or when we claim a Black identity. And so one of the things I like to talk to about with my students even is we talk about melanin, and we talk about, you know, the melanin molecule and how the melanin molecule is represented as Black, the color Black, and how the molecule, the structure of it is similar to the structure of DNA, you know, and so I think when we start to look at that specifically, Blackness takes on a whole other consciousness. And we don't have to answer to what Europeans label Aina, you know, if we can trace the origins of that further. And so I just wanted to mention that there's a science to Blackness as well. And
all right.
Yeah.
Give thanks for that. So what we're hearing here now is that Black is not just a descriptive of your skin color, but to carry with it certain moral and ethical principles and certain things like that. And that notion
physiological and biological, and you know, it makes it easier for Aina. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, we can understand the elements of Blackness within biological and melanin and these kind of things. But in terms of like political attitude or a kind of worldview, It also had some Black people writing. They had a literary movement called Negritude. I don't know if ones have ever heard about Negritude. You know what I mean? With certain writers like Frantz Fanon, and some of them are out of the Francophone world, the Francophone Africans, you know. So and even with our Trinidad's own Stokely Carmichael, he is a man talk about Black power. He coined that phrase, and within the concept of Black power is also is not like a mirror reflection of the notion of white power, but it also carries its own philosophical and ideological contents, you know. So
it's like about Rasta sipping black sip, you know.
Black sip.
Yeah. Sip that, you know, thing I no sugar, it thing I no salt, it thing got none of those things in it, you know. Just a black sip.
Yeah,
Yes,
all right. Yeah, blessed one and all. I man going tune out right now, you know, because we've been at it for a while. But I want to thank each and every one for the reason. The moderator of the program, my virgin on the other side, Raskafra, for all the ones who tune in. Rasionas finally get the reason with him. And all who you know tune in and listen to the program, and you know, I hope we can do this again on another forum discussing you know issues relevant to Rastafari. Once and all, thank you. All right, God bless.
But thank you very much, King. Respect all the time, you know.
Yeah, Jagai.
Yes, I respect our manners. Jagai all the time, man.
Right, guy.
We'll link up in the future, right? We don't know we will be no stranger.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Blessed love, Jagai.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to say something. I so moved to, but I'd like to just say something. Isis?
Could I say?
Isis, go through Rasionas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A couple of topics come up. The Bible and so forth.
Ilya, if you could talk more directly straight into the microphone, because we still having a little audio.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Still I use the phone because the computer so now works. So there I can hear me still, right?
Clear.
Yes, sir. All right. No, I just want to make a comment, you know, and certain things I just hear, you know, with pertaining to the EWF and pertaining to blackness, you know. So I would deal with the blackness part first. Have anyone ever noticed that the people today that's known as Africans, we have never named ourselves? It's other people name us.
Yeah, correct. But, because no tribal original people don't even call themselves African in Ethiopia. They call themselves the Morsi tribe, the Mosi tribe. They don't say African.
This tribe or that tribe, you know. We never even know so we are on a continent, because that's a modern type of word there. You know. But putting that one side, within all the names that been called by these people on the continent that's known as Africa today, the most established name and respected name is by known as Ethiopians. And that name, you can find it written in books. And within that name, the Ethiopians, quote unquote, Africans today, are exalted as terms like the first of all men. It was the Ethiopians who taught men to worship the gods. You know, all sort of, even Osiris, it mentioned that Osiris is an Ethiopian.
Yes, sir.
And his title was the King of Kings and God of Gods. And it showed that he established what we call Kemet today. So that word Ethiopian using to define the people that we call Africans today. I mean, that one really is very, very exalted in world history. You know, as according to our world history set up even by the Europeans. So I just want to make that clear still, you know. Now, towards the EWF now, I'd like to ask Sister Jem if she is invited to this, I think it was them keeping a convention. I think it will be held at the State Building on 125th Street. And if she's invited, you know, is this the group that she's speaking about that, you know, want to, well, I assume, recreate the EWF? That's one question to that. And the second one is this. Is the EWF, quote unquote, a Rastafari organization? Or is it for the black people of the world or the colored people of the world then? You know, or is it a fall under the umbrella of a Rastafari organization in terms of, does it say that His Majesty is God? Give time.
Okay, thanks for the question. I'll answer the second question first. The organization is not a Rastafari organization because all we, the black people of the world, are not Rastafarian. I think I probably mentioned that most of our members are Rastafarians because we are the ones who know of His Majesty. We are the ones who love His Majesty. We are the ones who love Ethiopia and Africa. And therefore, we try to be, to make our presence known with the organization that He gave to us. But it would be great if, even though people have their other organizations, which some are, they have other organizations, but they, especially Rastafarians, if you call yourself by His name, you should obey His statutes. So I'd like my Rastafarian family to think about that, that you are the ones who need to step up and work to defend the integrity and sovereignty of Ethiopia, our divine heritage. That's what the Constitution says. And the question if I'm invited, as a matter of fact, I was called and asked on several occasions to join that call. From 2019, I went on that call and I spoke about this group and what they are doing. As a matter of fact, in the year 2011, 2 of our members, one was suspended, the one I told you about, and another one resigned. And then the next year, they got together and called their own convention. 2 people that were like outcasts from the council. And they have presented, and they are the ones who have brought in the CFA into the fabric of the Ethiopian World Federation. But there is, like I said, there is something in the article that I got about them that says they are connected with a company named Frasberg, Frasberg, which is $1 billion company. Money will make good people go bad. So, but I would love to see some of that money. I don't need it. But if I had $1 billion company behind me, the Ethiopian World Federation would really be the government of we, the Black peoples of this world. You understand? So I don't understand it. I would even step back if I could see them putting money into the federation. I'd say at least you're doing something, you know? But at the same time, righteousness preserves a nation, and we are gonna try to deal with His Majesty's organization with proper protocol, because he's a man of protocol. And you know, I would appeal to ones and ones to become involved and don't allow what is going on to continue. But we are committed to making it right, and it will be done.
So what the eye is saying then, to my understanding, there will be a meeting, a 2-day meeting this month on the 16th and the 17th at the state building on Harlem, 125th Street. Because I live in Harlem for years. You know, I'm not living there no more now. But, you know, this week I get those information that this convention will be keeping there on the 16th and 17th of this month. And all EWF members are, I am not a member of EWF, but, you know, I hear the sound. So I'm saying, the sound is that all EWF members are invited. It won't be for non-EWF members, because it's a members convention. So my point was asking if you were invited.
Yes, no.
Knowing that you're supposed to be the president.
I was invited. That was the point. And I heard them say in one of the meetings, which I only went when I was like kind of pressured to go, and because I saw them as being an illegal gathering, an illegal entity, and especially working with this organization that calls itself the Sashamani Ethiopia Federal Agents Association. You know, people make up these things, and to me, it's disrespecting the order, you know? So I told them that I will not attend because of the illegalities that I was seeing. They were saying they were going to have locals vote, members of locals who were members of units and groups that were not chartered locals to vote. That is not constitutional. And so they have been, you know, gathering people, but they are not, there are guidelines. The locals have to be functioning properly. They have to be filing monthly reports with the headquarters. Even if they were filing it with them, probably I'd say, okay, but they're not. And they, as far as I'm concerned, they just brought me there to be a face, to make people think that I am participating with them. There is nothing so far from the truth, because when I brought this to attention, these are people who are supposedly leaders of the organization, some of them. And when I brought these things to their attention, it was like no big deal. Why? Because they really did not care. They are more interested in, position and power, and not in the interest of the organization or of we, the Black peoples of the world. And I told them that I would not participate because of the illegalities that I was seeing, and the fact that they were encouraging this organization, which most of the members never knew about until I sounded the alarm. And they are trying to make it look good, as if it's really something. They even had someone come on in one of the meetings to explain try to make it look like this was something great. So as far as I'm concerned, they're not working on behalf of the people. Some of them must be paid agents. And yeah, it's really sad, but we are gonna try to do what is right, even though it may not be popular. Because I was called every name in the book when I went on the call yesterday. I was accused of every bad thing in the world. I even, once I had some money and I took some elders from Jamaica to Sashamani, and they made it look bad, like I did something bad because these people were old. I took them because they were old. And I actually asked the leader of the local 43, which is the oldest local as far as I know from the 50s, to decide which other two people he wanted to come with him. And that person who was the president of Local 43 in Kingston, Jamaica, he was actually the first signator on the land grant distribution deed, Brother Brissett. So, and he had lived in Ethiopia before, but when the Derg took over, many of them were advised to leave because they did not know if the Derg would just wipe them out, you know what I'm saying? So he came back home. And the other one was a elder, and I know that they have been holding on so long, and that they love the Ethiopian World Federation, they love Ethiopia, they love His Majesty. And I felt like, okay, I'm gonna give them a gift. And I took them, and we went with Rastafari, who built the new temple for the Ark of the Covenant. And someone is questioning and asking about why, what does that have to do with the EWF? You know what that has to do with the EWF? When he was told by the guardian monk that they had, as a matter of fact, he said God talked to him and told him to cut his locks because he had people to meet. That is more important than the people he had already met. He was a performer, a performer, singer. And he traveled through Africa, met a lot of leaders and stuff like that. And he said God talked to him all the time, and God told him and said, cut your locks because you think you meet a lot of people. Well, there are more important people for you to meet, but they will judge you before you get inside the gate. So God told him to cut his locks. And he said he asked God to show him a sign, and God showed him 3 signs, and he cut his locks. And he went to the Ark of the Covenant to pray. He didn't know that's where God wanted him to go, but he took pictures, and when he looked at the pictures, he saw that everybody knows what that building looks like, right? And he saw the pictures, and he said, oh, the dome and the temple was all, you know, the paint was stripping off, the fence was rusty and stuff, you know, the yard needed cleaning up, the place. And he went and he asked if he could speak to the guardian monk, because he would like to paint the fence and you know, whatever, do some work. And they said, the guardian monk don't speak to people like that. He doesn't see anybody. He don't talk to anybody. But within 5 minutes, the guardian monk came out to him. And the next thing you see, he's sitting down and eating with the guardian monk. The guardian monk ended up accepting him like a son that he never had. And even personally baptized him. I can put the link in here that you could see that video. They baptized him. The guardian monk had never baptized anybody before. And in that video, you can see the other priests and deacons showing him what to do. And then, so he said, the guardian monk said, don't ask anybody in Ethiopia, you know, or Africa for any money. Go back to the diaspora. Go back home. And when he came to New York looking for the Ethiopian World Federation. The first place he went was a place in the Bronx at Sundial. And then he came to me and he said, Sister Jem, it's you I'm going to work with. And I put out the word to say that we must help to raise funds to build the new temple for the Ark of the Covenant. And I was never so, I mean, what they put me through then, because one of the people from London especially wrote and said, Jem want to thief people money. And one of them said, Jem must be locked up. So they were preparing me for what I met with them yesterday when they threatened me all kind of ways. But the word still went out, and he ended up using most of his own money because he was planning to actually build a hotel in Ethiopia. And he used that money and what he got, but it really stunted my growth because I was so shocked that someone was calling me a thief. But now I get used to it. The EWF doesn't have any money for anybody to steal. But I hear there are some people who know that the EWF is supposed to get a lot of money. But the ones who know, they're keeping it a secret. Probably that's why they're struggling for this position so bad, because they know where the gold is hidden. I don't. And I for me personally, God has provided for me so well that I'm fine. So I am not going, and a cease and desist notice is being sent out. I have it ready. And we're gonna probably need to raise some funds to get some lawyers to help us to get things back in order. That's all we want to do, clean up the EWF, and so that we can preserve our people and help our people. Because with all the people who jumping in there, this, there, and that, I don't see anything that I can say that they are doing for anybody in this world. So, you know, I don't understand it. And recently, we announced that we were being given 100,000 acres of land in Ghana. And I'm wondering if probably that, I have seen where a lot of people seem to be very focused on that. We're not hiding it, but guess what? Ghana, that area just had a drought where the lake dried up, the dam dried up, the rivers dried up, even the crocodiles ran away. And it's in the Savannah region. So we are supposed to be getting that land, people who plan to farm. Now, if you go in a country to farm and you have to face with a drought like that, the people had to be buying water. There was no water. They do have a dry season and a wet season, but this time more than ever. And I think one of the problems is that the Chinese have been going there and cutting down all the big trees and packing up some trucks that I'm wondering if the tires that they're driving on is made of steel, because you know lumber is not light. And they pack those trucks tight. And all that lumber is being taken to China. And when you go to build a house now, you're gonna buy African lumber from China. So with them killing the forests, they are killing the rivers and the people. I don't know if that community will survive. So I have slowed down in promoting that, and it's something to consider. Do I want to tell people to go into a place where, you know, next year come, you know, you got to be buying bottled water to bathe because there's absolutely no water? People are walking on the bottom of the lake and digging holes in there to try to get water. You want to see how the water dirty, but they still have to use it. So a lot of things are wrong, and it's a big fight, and yeah, we are going to through the grace and love of our divine majesties, the Ethiopian World Federation will stand and will be able to, for future generations, to protect our future generations. We have to, and we can't do it with people who have no integrity. And that is the problem that we are faced with. Sorry. Thank you.
All right, give thanks, give thanks.
Yeah,
what are you saying, sister?
I'm gonna put the number here and the email. If anybody wants to be in touch, I would appreciate it, because I also heard you had said you would contact people who to with upcoming stuff, you know? Right. So
yeah. What's the last thing you said there? I would be contacting people concerning what?
No, I think I'd heard one of you moderators said if we put our number in there and stuff, email, you would contact us when you're doing another event. Something like that.
Yes, I would, yes, most definitely. So you could leave your information and thing, and anytime when I look into load up a conversation, whatever it is, you'll get the notification, you know.
I'm gonna put my personal email as well. Thank you so much. And thank you
Thanks
for
again,
thanks for the
Empress.
opportunity to speak. I didn't plan to, but I was interested in the topic. Thank you.
All right, thanks again. And we'll definitely keep the network and keep the connection, you know. So everybody, we still here. The numbers started dwindle out now. I would just invite anybody to say any closing comments before I log off for the night, you know. All right, well, it seems like if everybody have had the cup full for the evening, I give thanks to my guest speakers, Rastafari, who's still here with us, and Brother Nigel, who departed a little earlier, you know. Both brothers compose itself and represent their opinions and things very clearly and formidably. And we give thanks again. Rastafari, blessings go to one and all. No, hope to see them again on the same platform. Love and respect. Rastafari.
Rastafari.